AI has been built across the ocean. We are consumers of ChatGPT. We're speaking to it about my problems. My boss said this. How should I react? मुझे email लिख के दो. Boss को मैं कौन सी email भेजूं?
What is your one piece of advice for young entrepreneurs?
This is the time to build in Pakistan for Pakistan. Build for your people. You're going to make money. You're going to create value.
Yeah.
It was a very tough time for founders in Pakistan. It was. And they're heroes because they tried to do something that was very hard. And we say, oh, वो तो fail हो गया. क्या मतलब fail हो गया? आपने try किया है.
And also you mentioned Reid Hoffman. Like you used to work with him or what? What is the biggest blunder you learned from?
It's tough to be an entrepreneur in Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum, Monis साहब कैसे हैं आप?
Walaikum assalam. I'm good. How are you?
सबसे पहले thank you so much for giving me your time finally.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's my pleasure to host you today, and you're my boss's favorite, by the way. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's been like, Monis को कब interview कर रही हो? Monis को कब interview कर रही हो?
I'm so honored, and you have a great team and a great boss.
Yeah, he is. So I will start straightly from the failed part of your career, like the failed businesses, क्योंकि वो कभी भी कैमरा पे नहीं आते हैं. तो मैंने आपकी जो बाकी पॉडकास्ट भी देखे वो रीसेंट बिजनेसेस सक्सेसफुल बिजनेसेस की कहानियों पर हैं. बट लेट्स स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द फेलियर, द फर्स्ट फेलियर. सो माय रिसर्च सेज Edaycare.com was the first platform. You can tell me if there was any other platform you built before this.
Right. ये देखें जब failure की बात होती है ना फिर there's a very long list. So then you have to go back to when you were like 6 years old. I mean the failure started very early for me.
Okay.
So I'll skip the stories of me being 6 years old and all of the failures I experienced since then. But I think it's very hard to succeed if you don't experience failure, because when you're innovating and you're doing things that haven't been done before, बहुत सी चीज़ें आपके सामने change हो रही हैं. The parameters around you are changing. The environment's changing. What you could do with tech before and what you can do with tech now, it's changed dramatically over time. The way you can pay has changed dramatically over time. The way people consume information has changed. So as these new, and now AI भी आ गया है, बहुत सी cool चीज़ें AI के through भी अब हो सकती हैं जो नहीं हो सकती थी पहले. So as these new variables become available and you are an entrepreneur that is passionate about innovating, so you do lots of experiments. And those experiments usually fail or don't do as well as you expected, but you learn a lot. और फिर उस information के साथ आप जाके you do another experiment and you do another and you just keep iterating. It's actually a lot of fun once you take your ego out of the picture. It's a very, very exhilarating ride trying to find a path where there's no path in the past and trying to make impact where no one else has really bothered to make impact. I'm going to speak about my failures in a second, so I'm getting there. But I just want to say कि देखें अब the sort of opportunity we have in front of us, me and you, is the first generation that's really had the opportunity to uplift a significant portion of our society. And by that I mean, Pakistan, you have about 20 million skilled professional white-collar workers, people like you who are well-educated, who work in nice offices. And then you have about 40 million blue-collar workers, laborers, who work with their hands, who aren't educated. And we weren't ever able to do anything for them. We weren't ever able to include them in this wave. And इसी तरह आपके छोटे-छोटे stores हैं, जो businesses हैं, who are again offline, वो अनपढ़ लोग हैं, they're not very educated. They're smart, but they don't have access. So for the first time in history, we have the opportunity to include them, uplift them, interconnect them. And this means that we're going to have a lot of failure. We're going to try and do things that haven't been done. We're going to try to give them apps. वो कहेंगे ये क्या है, कैसे चलता है जी, ये एक वॉलेट है, ये एक QR कोड है, ये कैसे चलता है, इसका क्या फ़ायदा है, मैं टैक्स में आ जाऊँगा इसके साथ. So this is a constant iteration, but once we crack this, the sort of facilities and efficiency we can bring to the rest of our economy, to the rest of our people, it's super exciting. So पहला जो काम किया था वो जब मैं वापस आया था, I needed to hire, and I was running a social networking site. Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, was a friend from the Valley. We did a piece of that early launch of LinkedIn in my office, but the main reason for engaging with Reid was he was an investor in Naseeb.com, which is our social networking site, off the back of Friendster, agar aapko yaad hai, the early days of social networking before Facebook. So उस वक्त से we've been innovating, and the idea was to launch this platform in Pakistan, but you need to hire to do that. उसके लिए jobs, you need to fulfill the jobs. It was very hard to hire. Newspapers में अखबार होते थे, अखबारों में jobs होती थी. It was very expensive. 8 लाख की job थी उस वक्त. 8 lakh to up ke, it's probably 2 million rupees now. It was very expensive to put a job ad. And the first, sort of, I will call it a कीड़ा, was कि यार ये तो ऑनलाइन होना चाहिए. तो ऑनलाइन हर जगह है. यूएस पे भी ऑनलाइन था, इंडिया में भी ऑनलाइन जा रहा है, इधर भी ऑनलाइन जाएगा. तो ये मैंने करना है. तो we launched Rozee. Now Rozee was very tough. Rozee में बहुत से failures आए हैं. To get Rozee to the point it is right now, there are probably 1,000 stories of failure. We would go in and talk to large organizations and banks and see कि यार हमारा ऑनलाइन ये प्लेटफॉर्म है, efficient है, ऑनलाइन आपके CVs आ जाएंगे, no need for paper CVs, we'll help you match. And you had very seasoned gray-haired people in the room said नहीं बेटा इंटरनेट पे तो jobs नहीं डालेंगे, इंटरनेट पे तो लोग chatting करते हैं, internet is not a good place for my corporate brand. So starting from that and experiencing people saying no, 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 and newspapers उस वक्त हमें ये कहते थे कि यार ये who are you? You're launching in a small house. Do you know who we are? We're a major brand. We're like a publication brand. People have been advertising jobs. They pay us ridiculous amounts of money. और आप आ गए हैं कह रहे हैं 3-3 हज़ार का place a job ad on an internet site. Who are you? So we entered into a very hostile period with newspapers. And उसमें भी बहुत मार खाई है हमने. They used to block our ads in newspapers when large employers would post कि they have vacancies, apply on Rozee. वो ads block होते थे. Newspaper would say, no way, we're not going to allow this. So उसके बाद, there are just so many experiments. I did easy tickets. We launched a ticketing platform, first time in Pakistan that we connected movie theaters directly to a web browser. So you could book and see seats and make bookings, worked with movie theaters, worked with their software providers, built the APIs for them. उनके पास APIs भी नहीं थे उस वक्त. Online payments हमने allow की, हालांकि उस वक्त online बहुत कम लोग देते थे payments. Grew very slowly, very, very slowly. लोग online नहीं देते थे. I remember we had other people would actually go to a Daewoo stop. They'd have websites and you would order, and then they would have a person run to the bus counter, buy a ticket and say कि जी आपका online order fulfill हो गया, and go and like hand it off. So उस वक्त से have been trying to build all of these things in. And everything that we've done, we've faced obstacles. We faced failures. Some things we stopped, some things we didn't stop. Edaycare was a classic example.
This was your first startup or what?
Edaycare was my first startup. I was, I think, 27 years old, 26 years old.
Okay.
I was in the US. I was working at Intel. I left my job at Intel. I was a microprocessor engineer. I was making chips, and then I went to AMD, and then उस वक्त मैंने देखा कि ये सारे startups आ रहे हैं, internet आ गया है, Hotmail आ गया है, Google आ रहा है. What am I doing making hardware chips? So I partnered with a friend of mine. He was a colleague from Intel, and we launched Edaycare. And the idea was we figured out how to stream live data from the cameras like these ones onto the internet through a web browser. We said, wow, ye kya cheez ijaad ki? Of course, now everybody's doing it. It's common. At that time, it seemed like a big deal. We said, what can we do with it? Well, let's put it up in daycare centers. My partner had a child in a daycare. He said, yaar, bada stress hota hai hame jab bachchi school mein hoti hai. We don't know kya kar rahi hoti hai. The mother's worried. So we built a whole business model around broadcasting. We connected 3,000 daycare centers. We put up cameras. Parents would watch their kids. फिर हम सोच रहे थे क्या करें. Early days of the internet, e-commerce was new. अच्छा, इसके अंदर we can let them buy books and lesson plans and raise some investment, a small amount at that time, and from some cool people, including Tony Hsieh, who's the founder of Zappos. He's no longer here, but very nice guy. So had the opportunity to meet some super smart people. And you learn a lot when you talk to super smart people. You also learn a lot when you try crazy things. I was in daycare centers, screws mein laga raha tha. There were these aunties who would own it. I was wiring up the cameras, crawling on my knees. हम 2 ही लोग थे उस वक्त. Launch कर दिया कि जी ये ले auntie, now it's up on the internet. And then she would have to explain to the parents, and she's like, अच्छा ये कोई online चीज़ है, इनसे बात कर लें. हमारे IT के लोग हैं. So, just that whole disruption of behavior is very challenging. It was very tough. So Edaycare we launched, got 3,000 daycare centers up. We're trying to make money, trying to find a way to make money. It's very difficult to monetize, and it takes a lot of capital to launch this. And you don't really know कि आपके idea में दम कितना है. It sounds like a good idea, but is it monetizable? What are the unit economics? So this was a time when we had billions of dollars coming into the valley, like about $2 billion, $1.5 billion हर महीने invest हो रहा होता था. तो first round तो बड़े आराम से raise हो गया था. अब now we're launching, we're trying to raise the next round. Now it's very hard to raise the next round. हमारे इर्द गिर्द सारे जो startups थे बहुत पैसे raise किए थे. All of a sudden you had the dot-com crash and nobody could raise money. And then you have to figure out अब मैं क्या करूँ. और यही पाकिस्तान में हुआ है. 20 years later, the same story replayed exactly word for word. It was like watching a movie. I could see it all happening all over again. $1 billion came into Pakistan. Startups ने पैसे raise किए, बड़े यो करके देखिए हमने क्या बनाया, ये बेच रहे हैं. Sale नहीं हुई, ran out of money, had to close, had to reinvent, had to do something. It was a very tough time for founders in Pakistan. It was. And they're heroes because they tried to do something that was very hard. And we say, oh, वो तो fail हो गया. क्या मतलब fail हो गया? आपने try किया है? Have you tried to lift? You're actually boiling the ocean. Do you have the guts to boil the ocean and fail? Well, if you don't, then
You can't comment. Actually.
we should be on the sidelines cheering these amazing people who've built so much. अब इधर की infrastructure को देख ले हमारे बहुत बहुत इजाफा है. It's because of all of these startups who've lost blood. ये शहीद हुए हैं. But ecosystem is being built. So I saw that happening. So we ended up going through an acquisition. It was a distress acquisition because we were out of money. So a large sort of competitor acquired us in New York and went through that whole acquisition process with them. And it's a very bittersweet moment when you go through an acquisition that's not a fantastic acquisition because you have to make sure that the company succeeds and your shareholders, you take them along and iska koi output hoga and jaan lagani padti hai. But it's no longer exciting as, you know, the
Building
the initial
process.
dream. And iske baad ye baar hua hai. Like Easy Tickets is a fantastic platform. It's amazing. But will Easy Tickets be a unicorn? No, I don't think so. Because the market mein itni dam nahi hai. Movie tickets ki, how many people are going to watch a movie? Then you enter the bus ticket space. Acha idhar to hai. Then you have to figure out ki ye jo छोटे जो हैं आपके buses, how to bring them online. So then we actually had to build software for bus providers so that they could use software so that we could connect users online to buy their tickets. So it's so much ecosystem enablement in Pakistan. You have to provision the other side, idhar se bhi bana rahe hain, and then you have to wait for it to monetize and get profitable. In Pakistan, online market has been traditionally very small. It's growing very fast now. So they say that VC say ke we've never made any money in Pakistan. We've never had a successful exit in Pakistan. I don't think anybody has had a really successful exit yet because of the ecosystem grow ho raha hai. The billions of dollars was just invested. We've just seen turmoil. Ab new cheezein ijaad ho rahi hain. And now if you look at the ecosystem jo ab hai, the ecosystem that we struggled with and we built things and we failed and we tried to build new things, उसकी enablement अब हो गई है आज के दिन. You have, about 60% of all adults now have an internet-connected smartphone. Everybody has a payment instrument. आप कोई भी दुकान के पास जाएं, अपने ऑफिस बॉय से पूछें, ड्राइवर से पूछें, इजी पैसा, जैज़ कैश है, हाँ जी है.
Of course, क्योंकि इनिशियली जब ये आया था तो a lot of people were not really into digital payments. तो अब तो क्योंकि इजी पैसा और जैज़ कैश की वजह से they do have their अपना मोबाइल ऐप्स जो बैंक की ऐप्स होती हैं. Because अब जैसे हम करीम या इन ड्राइव करते हैं, there are times when I don't have cash and I have to like ask the driver कि क्या मैं जैज़ कैश कर दूँ, इजी पैसा कर दूँ. तो पहले तो they were not really comfortable with all of this, but अब तो बहुत हद तक, I mean, out of 10, 9 people do have their easy पैसा and जैज़ कैश.
ऐसे ही है. और जब आपके भी आते हैं मेरे पास, जो राइडर्स आते हैं आपके नहीं, सॉरी, जब ट्रैक्स के राइडर्स आते हैं मेरे पास, I never have cash at home. नीचे आता है, my चौकीदार says कि सर वो आ गए 1920 रुपये हैं. मैंने कहा 1900, मेरे पास तो कैश नहीं है. मैंने कहा उसका जैज़ कैश इजी पैसा नंबर लो. उसी वक्त गेट पे वो पूछ लेता है, गेट अ व्हाट्सएप, मैं अपने ऐप में जाके आई मेक द पेमेंट, आई डू अ रिसीट. इट गोज इन हिज पर्सनल अकाउंट, नॉट द कंपनी अकाउंट. सो द बिजनेसेस आर स्टिल बिहाइंड, बट इंडिविजुअल्स आर वेरी क्लेवर. वो अपने अकाउंट में ले लेता है, एंड ही ऑलवेज गेट्स अ बिट ऑफ अ टिप बिकॉज आई नो ही इज गोइंग टू स्पेंड सम एफर्ट, तो आई पे मोर एंड दे लव इट. But ये अब institutionalized होने वाला है. अब I'll speak about this later. With Dukan, we're doing these QR codes, so a business like Trax can basically just expose that QR code to the rider, and the payment will go directly to Trax, and the rider will know कि आ गई ये payment. That's how it should be, right? So this enablement is happening. People are beginning to use smartphones. The $1 billion that came into the startup ecosystem, that largely has gotten washed out, but it's going to reinvent itself now, and अब अच्छी चीज़ें होंगी. that's gone into the market and educating people and teaching them how to use phones and to buy things and to avail financial services, make payments. ये सारी ट्रेनिंग हो गई है, ग्लू है, ये सारी जो रेल्स इंटरकनेक्ट हो गई हैं, लोगों के पास स्मार्टफोन्स भी आ गए हैं. So Pakistan is on the verge of this massive inflection point where a digital economy is growing ridiculously fast. And with this big doom and gloom that we always hear about, कि Pakistan economy, ये trade, exports, ठीक है वो आपकी old economy है, but जितनी तेज़ी से new economy आ रही है, and it's actually providing sort of a leveraged efficiency to the old economy, this is not just here to stay, but it's one of the most exciting things that the country has going for it. And we need to lean into it. We're not institutionally really leaning into it. State Bank is doing some great work. SECP is doing some great work. The government भी कुछ उछाल रहा है हाथ के FBR website बनाते हैं, ये करते हैं. But I think it's going to be these entrepreneurs who start to glue together the services and figure out where the money is flowing, how to make money, how to give services. और उसमें failures लाजमी हैं. अगर failures नहीं होंगे, we won't crack this. This problem hasn't been cracked in Pakistan, right? It's a unique problem to every country. So if you're not going to have the courage to fail, you're not going to do something outstanding and spectacular.
So do you like remember some blunders from day one? Let's say if you talk about this first, Edaycare.com,
Yes.
yeah? Do
Yes.
you remember what kind of mistakes that you'd like to, let's say teach your younger self? Don't do this. So young professionals or young entrepreneurs who are watching, you would learn from this. What is the biggest blunder you learned from?
This is a repeated sort of, now it's so obvious, but at that time when you're, in your early 20s and you have all of these dreams and you're super online savvy, you think everybody's like you. We built this amazing tech platform and we gave it to the daycare owners, which were usually, these like moms, middle-aged moms who used to run these small daycare centers. And we said, देखिए आपके लिए क्या किया है? Online broadcast, give your parents this URL, उनसे कहें to log in करेंगे, they'll be able to view, ये click करेंगे, आपके इधर ये dashboard पे information आएगी. Easy. But it was very difficult to get them to understand this tech because they weren't enabled with tech. And then for them to convince the parents and tell the parents कि यार ये बड़ी IT चीज़ है, how does it work? यार वो कुछ internet browser आपको. So that whole communication gap of building something and getting it penetrated in the market, usability by the cultural norms and nuances to get it used, this was the biggest learning. इस तरह नहीं होता बेटा कि you just build something and हर कोई आके click करके doing exactly what you want. And this is a lesson that's been with me throughout. I've done this over and over. So I've made this mistake many times, right?
Okay.
And I think this is probably a mistake that you probably need to make.
Understanding the audience, and you're telling me understanding the audience is a major problem.
Understanding the audience and getting the conversions of the use cases you're building. Okay. Getting them to do what you want on your online platform. This is a common thing, right? Because they've never used these platforms. These platforms have never been built. You're building it for first time. The first thing you have to test is, yaar, will they even use this thing?
Yes.
रोज़ी पे मुझे याद है हमने इतने ज़बरदस्त फीचर्स ये बनाए थे हमारे ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म इधर से क्लिक करो इंटरव्यू स्केड्यूल हो रहा है ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है रिक्विजिशन अप्रूव हो रही है लाइन मैनेजर को जा रहा है वो क्लिक कर रहा है CEO कह रहा है हाँ बड़ा ज़बरदस्त फ्लो था किसी को समझ नहीं आया तो आप 6 महीने लगा दें बड़ा आप शानदार फ्लो बना दें बड़ा IT देखें ये करते हैं और जब फील्ड में देते हैं किसी को समझ नहीं आ रहा इस्तेमाल ही नहीं कर रहे आप कहते नहीं इसको क्लिक करो तो फिर ये क्लिक करो और फिर अपने CEO से कहो कि इधर जाके लॉग इन करे नहीं होता
हमें कॉम्प्लिकेट नहीं करना चाहिए ऑडियंस के लिए
हाँ कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं दैट यू कैन कॉम्प्लिकेट बिकॉज द यूज़र इज़ used to doing those types of complicated transactions और कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें जो हमारे लिए तो बड़ी आसान है but the users they haven't been trained that uncle who's a CEO has not been trained on going onto a website, clicking and logging in and going through a dashboard and finding out which one he has to approve or approve ko click karke apna OTP. This is a new user behavior. So it's very naive, of course, but we tend to make these.
And what about, for example, Naseeb.com pe major learning, because this was another venture that you made, right?
Naseeb.com was such a fun experience. It grew very quickly. It turned into a cash cow. It was an ATM. We're making lots of money through it. And those were the days when we didn't have to spend any money on acquisition because it was a viral friends of friends model. तो मैंने कोई 1000 लोगों के साथ सीड किया उनको ईमेल इन्विटेशंस भेज दी वो आए उन्होंने कहा यार इस पे तो मैंने अपने फ्रेंड्स को इनवाइट करना है उन्होंने अपने फ्रेंड्स बना लिए The friends invited friends, friends invited friends of friends. And all of a sudden, we had about 300,000 active users in the US on it, which were Pakistani origin, UK maybe the in Canada. And then the interaction, the dynamics, and then we kept launching things and doing a test to see if people would pay. And it turned out that it was a social networking site, but people wanted to pay to meet each other. So matchmaking turned out to be one of the main incentives to pay.
Oh.
So we said, "Acha,
At
aise hota
that
hai."
time.
Oh yes, it was a very big deal.
Yeah.
Many people met their soulmates and got married on, Naseeb.com. Agar US mein, if you ask anybody who's probably now in their 40s, you'll find a lot of people actually met on the site. But it was a social networking site. It was an
Okay.
identity site.
What happened to that, by the way? Is it like still?
Naseeb is still around, but it's in almost hibernation mode.
Okay.
Uska bhi aayega time. I'm going to bring it back.
Haan.
But I'm so occupied with other things. I really feel that this is the right time for something like that now in Pakistan. There's a big need of trust.
You're still the owner of Naseeb, or it was acquired?
No,
Acquired,
no,
yeah?
it's still mine.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's in hibernation mode.
Okay.
And inshallah, uska bhi aayega time. We're going to resurrect it once I get all these other.
And you said this
Experiments in
was
control.
a cash cow, and you made a lot of money through that. So because that was the need of the time, the matchmaking thing.
So here's what happened, Maham. And ye internet mein hota hai. There's constant cycles and windows of disruption. Naseeb.com became incredibly successful. Why? Because it was right after September 11th, 9/11, where Muslims globally were feeling very threatened, were feeling very uncomfortable. If you were a Muslim in the US after 9/11, it was not a fun place to be. People would say things to you, ask you naive questions, which were very offensive. So there was a sense of identity that was needed. And Naseeb was there at that right time when the social networking wave had just kicked in and people began using sites like Friendster and Orkut or ye sari cheezein. So there's a big market need, so people gravitated towards it to meet people like them, cool people like them. And because of that, hamari acquisition cost zero thi, never spent a money on advertising, and then a certain percentage of them, about 8%, would click and upsell to your premium services where they could meet each other. Then we used to sell virtual flowers on Naseeb, which was a lot of fun. A picture of a rose, a picture of a bouquet of a rose. 1995 ka, we would send you a picture of a bouquet of rose. Aur itne logon ne wo roses ka, that is, I think, the first NFT that I know about. So people would buy these. And it was very, very cool to look at social behavior. Even though it's a picture of a rose, you're paying money for a picture to transmit a picture that's already there to another person. Why would you do that? Is that stupid? And it turned out, no, it's not stupid. People do it because the person receiving those flowers knows that there's a really sweet intent. Somebody just spent $20 to send this to you. And it turns out that's what made the difference. So there were a lot of learnings in this. So what happened with Naseeb? So we're having this great gravy train. Aram se baithe hue, growth aa rahi hai, viral growth hai, friends inviting friends, exponential growth aa rahi hai, cash aa raha hai, vacations pe ja rahe hain, bas on hai, Allah ka. It's a great thing that you've launched, it's going. All of a sudden, Facebook aa jata hai. Facebook free hai. And the social networking game changed where now you couldn't charge people. Say, why should I pay? Facebook to free hai. Ye bhi free hai, wo bhi free hai. Unhone paise raise kiye hain. So then it became, okay, well, agar ye karna hai, to ya to raise a lot more sort of money for this, and also need to now acquire customers. So we need to spend money to acquire, which is a very traditional matchmaking business. Dil Ka Rishta in Pakistan is new. We were doing that ages ago. Match.com, the CEO was also on my advisory board. So I know the business model very, very well. But isme ye hota hai ki you spend $1 and you get $1.05 back. You spend, paise aa rahe, spend, paise aa rahe. You're acquiring, advertise karte hain. Jo log eventually aapke paas aate hain and pay, you make a slight premium on your ad spend. So you're always growing and churning. It's an arbitrage model. That wasn't interesting to me. So when Facebook came and it turned into, yaar, I'm going to have to pay for advertising, phir koi aayega, pay karunga. It's a traffic acquisition game, which wasn't as exciting as what I, was creating. And to be honest, at that point, there was a big need for Rozee and jobs. And we launched Rozee and the jobs started taking off. And I felt really good. This is very productive, helping the economy. Log aa rahe hain. Or meanwhile, wo ho raha hai. So usko humne thoda hibernate pe kar diya. Rozee pe full, we spent our energy on Rozee. Because there was a disruption. Now, if we have that stuck with that and iterated it, we would have found some big success. It was a very popular site. But that time we said, okay, isko bhi hold pe rakho. Let's get this thing to grow.
Yeah.
And now this thing grew very well, mashallah.
And also you mentioned Reid Hoffman. Like,
Yes.
yeah, he's the guy. And like you used to work with him or what?
you know, he's a guy now, but when I knew him, he was a great guy, but he wasn't the guy.
Okay.
Right? So when you have these friendships that are early and those people become amazing, you know, it's like, well, he was over at my house and we would just hang out and I would cook. मैं तिक्के बनाता था. Irani kebabs. He would be over. We'd be eating together. We'd be brainstorming. I was moving back to Pakistan. So, but very, very smart person. I've learned a lot by just talking to him, by seeing the way he thinks and the way he views the world. Like PayPal was a tremendous success story, tremendous learning, super smart people.
Yeah.
But just having access to that PayPal mafia and talking to them about those experiences. And then
Yeah.
LinkedIn jab start kiya tha, we had just started our site with Naseeb and he was doing a professional network. I think I'm probably the maybe 50th or 60th profile ever created on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn?
Jab create hua tha.
Wow,
We used to have a group and Reed would shoot things in it and we would brainstorm कि ये ठीक करो, वो ठीक करो, तो pictures
Wow.
upload होने चाहिए, नहीं होने चाहिए. It's a very small,
Very
early
good.
days, early days.
So I've been seeing this कि why LinkedIn is not, you know, doing this for creator community. Reid Hoffman को message डालें.
Reed तो अब involved नहीं है, वो तो Microsoft को
अच्छा.
sale होके ये तो अब you know, so Reed is not.
अच्छा, okay, okay.
Yeah, I think he's a spiritual father. अब उसकी जो कहानी has been institutionalized now with
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
but the way he has built the platform is wonderful, and you were able to learn from these people also.
देखिए,
right?
people don't realize उस वक्त ये जो था ना, Friendster was the first one to do this friends of friend model. There's a big history in this viral growth economy. It started with Friendster, and Reed was one of the seed investors there, and we saw how quickly it grew when you let friends invite friends invite friends. It's a tree. It's like an exponential growth model. And Reed latched on to that Friendster investment experience and said, I want to do something for professionals. And he did a stellar job, really well thought through. And you can see the results now. But it was a vision at that time. Now, in terms of the creator economy, I think one thing we really need to reconcile with as entrepreneurs in Pakistan, and I've been saying this all along, and this is my learning. I've been in Pakistan as an entrepreneur since 2003. बहुत अरसा हो गया.
जी.
So I've learned. And you know, like you see what's happening in the West, you're like, यार ये इधर भी होना चाहिए. मैं ये launch कर देता हूँ. नहीं चला. यार ये भी होना चाहिए. मैं इसको भी launch कर देता हूँ. नहीं चला. And वही बात बनती है कि you have to understand our people, how they use the internet, what they are comfortable with, what their age groups are, what are the demographics. When we talked about LinkedIn, you're talking about fairly educated people who can be LinkedIn influencers or who are influenced by LinkedIn influencers.
हाँ.
पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं.
हाँ.
Right? वो हमारे पास इस मुल्क में जो तादाद है काफ़ी कम है. हमारी ज़्यादातर are the TikTokers.
Yeah.
It's your taxi drivers, it's your चौकीदार that when you go inside, your चौकीदार उल्टी सीधी चीज़ें, he's making his TikToks.
Yeah.
So the population base is at the bottom of your pyramid. And this is a population base that we tend to ignore. In our nice air-conditioned offices, when we go to McDonald's and have our, you know, latte, this is where your economy is sitting. And this is the most exciting piece of the economy that I'm very excited about. The thing is, you know, ये अमीर लोग नहीं हैं, इनके पास तो पैसे नहीं हैं. How can I make any money off of these people? But that's precisely, you know, the problem that I think we need to crack. And this is why you'll find far more people making Instagram posts or TikToks because it's easy. You don't have to be educated. I don't have to write something. I don't have to talk about GDP and economy and growth rates, right? I have my camera. I already know how to take a picture. I do it. I do a selfie. I say something stupid. I make my friends say something stupid. And millions of people are getting entertained. Now, this is what TikTok cracked. And then it's a newsreel algorithm, how to make it addictive for me to see what I like. So you can't fight the fundamentals of demographics in Pakistan. कोई 20 million लोग हैं हमारी तरह जो educated हैं, office professionals हैं, but ज़्यादातर आपके लोग नहीं हैं. And we've never really thought very hard about what do they need. We can build things for them that they need that make their lives tremendously more productive. We can do, I mean, I can list 50 ideas on how you can help uplift the people around you through online, internet. But that doesn't seem to be our fascination. We want to order food and burgers and KFC and fashion brands. Ye hamara, that's what we're excited about because that's what we look in the West. So I think...
But you know, charging these people would not give you the margins. Maybe scale will give you.
So 40% of the GDP of Pakistan is coming from SMEs, 40%. And 60% of the non-agricultural workforce. I think we've all heard this a million times. 40% of your GDP is a lot of money. It's $250 billion. 40%. ठीक है जी? Now, हम कहते हैं यार ये तो गरीब लोग हैं, नहीं, ये आटा ख़रीदते हैं, ये चीनी ख़रीदते हैं, ये चाय ख़रीदते हैं, ये आउटिंग्स पे भी जाते हैं, ये they have needs, they need to buy gold, they need to sell, they need loans. It's a huge market. It's not a small market. And online की वजह से we can access them cheaply. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It's online. So even though if you're only going to spend 100 rupees with me, who cares? My cost of acquisition is zero. My sort of bandwidth cost is not much. So for the first time, we're in a position to acquire these people who the unit economics didn't make sense to hire a salesperson and field sales team के इनसे जाके मैं बातें करूँ. नहीं, it's too expensive. I'm spending 5,000 rupees to reach this guy और मुझे I'm getting paid 100 rupees. ये क्या बकवास है? इसको छोड़ो. DHA जाओ. You see this? So now this is something that's been turned on its head, and it's turned on its head even in a more profound way now. In a more profound way now because अब AI आ गया है. हमने कुछ नहीं किया. We're enjoying this. Enjoy करें. AI has been built across the ocean. We are consumers of ChatGPT, right? We're speaking to it about my problems. My boss said this. How should I react? मुझे email लिख के दो. Boss को मैं कौन सी email भेजूँ? Email भेज दी boss को. Yeah. So, but AI. I'll just speak about this quickly. But the opportunity for AI is basically this: कि AI उर्दू बोलता है, बहुत ज़बरदस्त उर्दू बोलता है. हाँ. पंजाबी भी बोलता है. हाँ. सिंधी भी बोलता है. चाइनीज़ भी बोलता है. हर ज़बान बोलता है. And आपके prompt के through you can get this communication out. दूसरी चीज़ जो आ गई है कि अब उर्दू voice models आ गए हैं कि जो AI से जो मैं चीज़ें निकाल रहा हूँ वो मैं अपने उर्दू voice model को भेजूँगा और बड़ी खूबसूरत आवाज़ में it's going to speak it to me. Yeah. Now if I'm somebody uneducated and I need information, मैं क्या करता हूँ? I go to a WhatsApp, अपने दोस्त को I open it, I do a WhatsApp. भाई ये बताएं ये हो रहा इसका क्या हाल है? मेरा दोस्त सुनता है भाई तुम ये try करो वो try करो, right? This is how we operate. Everybody can do voice notes. The चौकीदार can do your voice notes. Your office boy can do voice notes. उर्दू में कर सकते हैं. हाँ. अब आपके पीछे AI है, so we've built these beautiful interfaces and we're going after blue collar jobs, which has been my dream. To service those 40 million blue-collar workers, not just the 20 million, but I couldn't access them. Up WhatsApp ke through, you can have these voice note-based interfaces where you're talking to people in their own language. And you're solving tremendous problems for them just through voice note. I can make your chowkidar the most impressive CV you've ever seen just through asking him questions in Urdu on his voice notes. And boom, he gets a PDF of a CV. Ab uske skills bhi aa gaye mere paas. I know his qualifications. When he goes to make a CV, he goes to a print shop. He says, "यार CV बना दो." They've got a copy. नाम बताएं, नाम डालते हैं. Address बताएं, address डाल देते हैं. ठक ठक ठक. ये देखें. This is your. It's not really reflective of him. It's not कि यार मैं office में मैंने ये किया तो मैंने ये सारे plants लगाए. I'm great with plants. You know, I water. So AI can interactively ask these questions in your native language. Now, अब तो मैं आपको jobs के बारे में बता रहा हूँ. ये हर industry में healthcare, e-commerce,
of course.
Purchasing. तो ये unstructured information जो इस मुल्क में इतनी ज़्यादा है, वो structure हो जाती है AI की वजह से. And we can talk to people. So now imagine we have this genie in a magic lamp. हमारे पास आ गया, इस मुल्क में आ गया. हम क्या करें? मेरे बॉस ने मुझसे गुस्से से बात किया, मुझे बताएं, मैं उसको email क्या लिखूं? Dear sir, I did not appreciate your. Okay, yes, do that. But you can also uplift a very large percentage of your population if we use our brain. आपने बस AI को just interconnected with all of these other things we're doing. Same happens for these SMEs, which are 40% of your GDP. So who's the biggest winner of AI? These emerging markets. We are. We're the biggest winner. आपने जो वेस्ट में you take an educated person, you give him a lot more information, उसकी education इधर से इधर चली गई है. पाकिस्तान में you take an uneducated person who's starting here और उसकी knowledge की level उसी level पे चली गई है. उसके पास वही information की access है. Look at the uplift you're doing. And you have a very significant portion of your population, your youth, I think 60% under 30, uneducated, but online access आ गया है. We said this could be a liability or an asset. Well, this is an asset now. We have to turn it into an asset. हमारे पास tools आ गए हैं. Why aren't we turning this into an asset? This is what I'm passionate about. And I think we can do it. I'm doing this with Dukan. I'm doing this with Rozee. It's not easy. It's boiling the ocean.
Oh, you mentioned Rozee. Just quick questions you need to leave for Unilever. I know that. So you were mentioning Rozee.pk. So my first internship was at Rozee/Finja. And
at Finja?
हाँ.
At Rozee?
So Rozee and Finja for both. Basically, I was hired for both.
In Karachi?
In Karachi. Business
I didn't know that. So you were at the Rozee
intern.
office in Karachi because we were incubating Finja, so we offered
अच्छा
some
हाँ
space.
उस टाइम पे फिंजा और रोजी का साथ में and we were actually developing business, so business development intern was my title, and this is like my first
Fantastic.
internship.
Acha, acha.
So,
So I never
yeah.
saw you at the Rosie office, I think.
I didn't even know you at that time because मैं तो intern और
I
boss.
see. Okay. ठीक है.
So I don't know if you were like sitting in the office or not.
मैं आता था every time I'd be in Karachi, you know.
अच्छा.
I'd spend 2-3 days at the office, in and
अच्छा,
out
okay.
on
So
meetings.
this was like 4 weeks internship. I did that.
Excellent.
And तो उस टाइम से मुझे फिंजा और रोजी का पता है, और रोजी पे of course everybody's using. I also use that. But
अब तो AI आ गया on Rosie. I don't know if you've seen the new Rosie or
नहीं.
Rozee.pk.ai.
अच्छा.
We've reconstructed the entire site. We have disrupted ourselves. We said we're going to face this. I've seen it happen a million times. ये बस आने वाला है. 1 साल में, 2 साल में, 3 साल में. इस दफ़ा I'm not going to sit around and watch it happen. So we disrupted ourselves and we launched Rozee.gpt.ai.
Wow, that's
why I'm going.
fascinating,
Copenhagen आज रात जा रहा हूँ. I'm invited to speak at a conference of global job boards with their CEOs and to talk about the Rozee GPT success story, how we transitioned from an offline job board to an AI one.
Wow.
Dunia bhar mein job boards are trying to do this. We're the first ones to do this in Pakistan.
Lovely.
So yeah.
So with this experience of building Rozee.pk, what has been like your biggest learning? It could be related to a blunder, a mistake, or anything, like the major learning.
The major learning is how my consumers, my job seekers respond, how they interact, what they do, what they don't do. English में I'll write a sentence and I'll email it out. And about 60% of the people didn't even understand. It was a very easy sentence. बहुत आसान English में. But people clicked the wrong thing. Make it more easy.
Okay.
फिर भी they're clicking the wrong thing. उनको नहीं आ रहा. ना अच्छा तो फिर उर्दू में लिखो, रोमन उर्दू में लिखो. तो फिर क्या होता है? फिर ये होता है. So the biggest learning is how to communicate with people online in a massive way and to get scale and get conversion and get them to do what you want them to do. I think that's been the biggest learning.
Okay. And what about, let's say, when it comes to sustainability, because there are times when you have to like prioritize, क्योंकि operation पे भी चीज़ें चल रही होती हैं, you have to like balance when you need to make a business sustainable. What are like the creative trade-offs you make?
देखो, it's tough to be an entrepreneur in Pakistan because when you make things sustainable, you need to generate enough cash to pay for all of that amazing work and talent and people and office and AC.
Yeah.
And making money from these innovative ideas is very difficult. It happens much later. You have to crack it. At times, you never make money. On Rosie, the sort of money we were able to extract from online classifieds was a very small fraction of what competitors in India were doing. Not competitors, our friends like Naukri.com. So getting money out of the Pakistan market, as everybody's learned, is tough because it's still early. It's still relatively early, but it's heating up. So sustainability is number one. And what did we do, entrepreneurs, for sustainability? We raised VC. It's not sustainability. तो VCs ने कहा चलो big market है, लोग बहुत हैं, तुम Harvard educated हो, McKinsey से तुमने किया हुआ, आ जाओ, I'll give you a few $1 million. When that money runs out, then there's tremendous stress on founders because it's no longer sustainable. They're turning out that there's so many companies that raise money at like $200 million valuation, more than banks, on expectations of revenues that they'll never be able to hit. Never, ever. Because the market doesn't have that potential. But VCs, they apni mathematics karke Indonesia mein, India mein ye hua hai, here's a multiple. And they, gave them 50, 60, $80 million and said, yeah, aapki valuation is X, it's $1 billion valuation ho gayi, $400 million valuation ho gayi, 300 million. और अब ये हो रहा है कि now when the money runs out, they have to sustain themselves. And when they sustain themselves, it turns out जो आमदनी उनकी आ रही है, revenue is a very small percentage of what the Excel spreadsheet said in the forecast through which they raise their VC. Yeah. The whole financial engineering of these organizations gets upside down. फिर VC भी नाराज़ होता है कि मैं अपने जो पैसे मैं कैसे निकालूंगा, ये तो उधर नहीं जाएगा, ये founders stupid हैं. Founders get angry, why are you interfering in my business? I need to do this, I need more time. And there are millions of problems that come. Then founders में आपस में they have fights. फिर ये होता है, फिर वो. So it's a very tough environment. So sustainability का, the best advice I can give everybody is advice I'm following. Make your business profitable early. खुद ही उसको profitable करो.
So you believe in bootstrapping?
I believe so strongly in bootstrapping, I cannot tell you because मैंने मार खाई हुई. I've seen this, right? So I think bootstrapping and building things with paying customers. If I'm really giving you value and I'm going to save you money and time, I should be able to pay you. I should be able to convince you to pay me something. आप थोड़े से दे दो, आपके लिए बना दूंगा. आप थोड़े से दे दो. And you crowdfund from your clients, customers. This is how I've built Dukan. And now with Rozee.pk, we've launched this complete AI platform, which is state of the art. It hasn't happened anywhere in the world. Super advanced. Everybody's asking us about it. We built it organically. We didn't have a lot of money. It's Rosee's own income. It's from our own cash flow that we've managed to invest and build this.
Wow.
And that's the way to do it.
So you talked about sustainability, right? And what about scalability? Let's say if we have to like balance the rapid growth and operational health as well, you know. So scalability pe, what are your 3 tips to young entrepreneurs?
आप scale फौरन ना करें.
Okay.
पहले अपने unit economics, product market fit, user adoption, make sure those are working. If you launch an app, let's say you've launched a grocery app, don't spend $100,000 on advertising and social media and getting everybody to install your app. आप पहले देखें कि वो जो 1000 लोग हैं जो already आपके app पे वो क्या कर रहे हैं. Are they actually buying things? Are they shopping? Are they stuck on screen number 4? या आपके जो partners हैं, are they not able to fulfill the product? What's happening? Because the moment you start hyperscaling and you haven't fixed your unit economics, your plumbing, you haven't made sure the water pipes don't have any leaks, and you start scaling, you're going to spend a lot of money, you're going to get a lot of installs, and you're going to deal with a lot of nonsense junk user data. और ये बार-बार हुआ है. So the best advice I can give is build something on a small scale, do it in a small area, small group, make sure it's working, make sure the value is strong, and once you find delight in your customers, they love it, they use it over and over again, फिर आप उसको scale करें. Don't scale before that. We've seen it happen. I mean, you know, Airlift की story है, इसकी story है, उसकी story है. Hyperscale करो जी, iPhones दे दो free में. Hyperscale करें, ये growth numbers देखें, आ जाओ VCs. This is a trap that entrepreneurs can easily find themselves in because there's pressure from investors to raise more money at a higher valuation. Show growth, show growth, show growth. बेचारा show growth, यार मैं कहाँ से growth show करूँ, यार iPhone दे दो लोग आ जाएंगे. Right? So this is something that when you build as an entrepreneur, don't build for VCs. Build for yourself. You're investing your time, you're investing your career in it. You want it to be successful for you, not for James Smith VC साहब जो बैठे हैं वो कह रहे हैं यार growth करो, growth लाओ, iPhone दे दो. And I think once entrepreneurs figure out how much power they truly have, not because they don't have cash and liquidity कि जी मुझे दे दें, जो आप कहेंगे मैं कर लूँगा. B2B बनाना है, ठीक है मैं कर लूँगा. ये करना है, ठीक है मैं कर लूँगा. No. The entrepreneur knows best what's happening on the ground. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen as fast as we expect it to. But I think entrepreneurs need to be confident, figure out how they can make money, and make it sustainable so they don't have to go back and raise funding to somebody who doesn't understand what they're doing and who hijacks their plans. And then you never achieve your success. And you enter in this very complicated, financially engineered structure that can easily unwind.
Okay. When you were actually leading a team of 10 people and you started leading people, a team of 100 people, you know, there is a massive difference in leadership styles, right? So what have you learned as a leader while, you know, leading a small team and now giant teams?
What I've learned as a leader is I don't like leading large teams.
Acha.
And so I always find really good people who are very good at leading large teams, and I partner with them.
Interesting.
Because when I lead large teams, I get stuck in a lot of details, leave approvals, ये office नहीं आया आज, ये हो गया, वो हो गया, इधर ये मसला चल रहा है, वो client. So this operational overhead होता है, this really kills into creativity and execution. So the more I can free myself of that and find good partners on the operational side, the more I can use my own superpowers.
Wonderful. And finding partners, let's say hiring, you know. I know you won't be hiring on the lower level, but let's say on the upper level, if you're, let's say, building a team, a core team, you know, what are the 2-3 major things you look at while partnering up with somebody or hiring somebody?
Dekho, I think we've all learned this. When we raise a lot of money, when we've all raised $1 billion of VC, we had to build teams very quickly. And I need to find people जो कि VCs को भी अच्छे लगते थे कि इनकी branding अच्छी है. This is X Kareem, X Daraz, X this, X that, right? उनको बहुत अच्छा लगता है. So there's a pressure to hire all these people. So lots of people were paid expensive salaries, लोग आए, but they never knew each other. But you had to build, यार, I need a biz dev का बंदा चाहिए, मुझे IT का head चाहिए, मुझे marketing का head चाहिए, इसको ले लो, इसको ले लो. So you just basically go shop around, you get all these logos and you hire these people and you say, ये है, here's a mission, startup, you give them all the t-shirt and you say, great, life is good. It doesn't work. Teams are very complicated. Human beings have agendas. You don't know where that person came from, who was previously working at Food Panda in some role. You don't know कि उसके mind में क्या चल रहा है, what is his incentive, what he likes to do, how he works, versus the other person you just brought in from ex-Kareem. उनको आपने एक रूम में साथ बिठा दिया, आपने कहा ये करना है. और ये सारे micro explosions हो रहे हैं नीचे because you have just overbuilt and you don't have the chemistry and maybe nek niyati amongst the team. And so lots of things went wrong. The same goes with founders. You know, you're in a hurry to find a founder. Don't rush because founders are like spouses. There has to be infinite trust. Infinite trust. You don't have to watch your back. Okay, you brought in a founder, yaar, wo investors ke paas jaake, you know, stabbing me in the back or meri burai kar raha hai, and they want, you know. So you don't want to have to watch your back with a co-founder or a senior team member, just like you don't want to watch your back with a spouse. And when you have this sort of mix, when lots of money comes in and scale karo and paise aa rahe and valuations grow kare, jaldi hire karo, you see what happened in our ecosystem. It became very toxic for a while. Koi idhar gaya, koi quit kar raha hai, koi idhar ja raha hai, koi iske baare mein kuch keh raha hai, koi iske baare mein kuch keh raha hai. Nobody wants anybody to succeed. So these are things that I think, you know, you learn with experience. आप मार खाते हैं. I think बहुत लोगों ने मार खाई है, हमने भी मार खाई है. And उससे then you get a lot smarter. The next time you build a team and you say जल्दी ना करो, relax. अभी इसको hire कर लो, बाद में we go for senior people. Hiring senior team members that you don't know into your organization is the biggest risk for a startup. Biggest risk for a startup. We don't realize it. So I think we have to be more deliberate. Co-founders ka to especially. I think co-founders is something that's so delicate, so sensitive, and you know, when things are going well, it's a non-issue, everybody's happy. But when stress comes in and the various personalities interact in tough times, that's when it can create existential issues, or it can be the biggest support system that you've ever had. So that's the importance of choosing your co-founder and team members.
Lovely. Okay, last question since you need to leave. Dukan.pk, you have built a wonderful platform. What are your plans for that in future also? And a bit about Dukan.pk, people who are like listening to about it for the first time. And also mention D2M, what's the process, you know, the background of it.
Dekhiye, I told you what I'm excited about. I'm excited about making impact at the bottom of the pyramid with the people that are traditionally not excluded financially and the businesses, the SMEs that are not included financially. Okay, I think the most work needs to go there. The most entrepreneurial effort needs to go there. The most impact will be made there. But it's also the hardest piece of the puzzle to crack.
Of course.
Right? So you have to be crazy to go after it. And I think I've proven that I'm a little bit crazy. So I am going after it in a major way because I think agar 5% chance we're able to crack this, the impact is phenomenal. And I'd love to be a part of that story. Yeah. What Dukan does is a digital banking platform for retail merchants. You have छोटे-छोटे जो stores हैं, जो Kriana stores हैं, जो ठेले वाले, and I've got a lot of experience with this. I rode this wave through Finja. I've seen them. I've operated with them. We've done loans to them. So I've understood, and I've understood the mistakes that we made as well on the Finja side. I've been after this market for a while. And what Dukan does is it's a full banking platform through our partners. We use licensed partners. Easy Pesa is our partner. We have a few other partners in the industry that we're building white label platforms, and they're going and putting this in their retail merchants. वो क्या करते हैं इसके साथ? Retail merchants को हम एक बड़ी simple सी app देते हैं. We do a KYC, we do an authentication, face match, ID card. We connect to a bank account. And उनको एक immediately हम एक रास्त का QR code show करते हैं जो कि person to merchant है. वो वाला नहीं जो आप इस्तेमाल कर रही हैं P2P when you do a transfer in your app. That's a person-to-person transaction. The person-to-merchant transaction is a unified QR code. State Bank has launched this initiative, RAST. And उसमें जहाँ पर भी आपका account है, आप अपना QR code show कर सकते हैं. You can print it, put it on a sticker, you can show it in an app. And anybody with any banking app is mandated by law, by SPP, to be able to scan that QR code and transfer funds from that bank to the merchant. This is a unified QR code. India में भी हुआ था, it's called UPI. Happened in Brazil, it's called PIX. Vietnam में भी हुआ है, it's in Thailand. Every emerging market is now launching these unified QRs. और इंडिया में हमने देखा कि जब ये launch हुआ था, आपके एक hockey stick curve आई थी in online payments. That's what changed everything. Pakistan में you're starting to see QR codes all over the place. Dukan has made it very easy for merchants to onboard, create a QR code to get paid through a digital channel to see the payments, to get a tap-on phone. You can tap a credit card. That merchant on his phone will be able to process it, so you solve the payment problem. We're connecting them with their suppliers. We're integrating directly into the ERPs of very large FMCG brands. और ऐप के अंदर ही अगर आप जियो कोड में हैं जहाँ पर there's a distributor operating, आपको order सीधा distributor को उसके software में जाता है और अगले दिन वो route पे आता ही hands off the supplies to you. We've invented this model. We're the first ones doing it. There's no moving parts. It's just a thin software layer. कोई warehousing नहीं है, capital expenses नहीं है. I'm not competing with my distributor and saying कि मुझसे खरीदो उससे ना खरीदो. मैं orders उसको दे रहा हूँ. Financial transactions. I have a wallet. और जैसे वो transactions होते हैं, one thing I've gotten very good at. I'm an algorithmic guy. You know, I started my career at Intel making microprocessor chips and improving their performance through various algorithms. So we've learned very, very well how to credit score these transactions. जो आपकी incoming transactions आते हैं, outgoing transactions आते हैं, the footprints you leave from data. It turns out that if you know what you're doing and you have enough data, you can score them super well, meaning I can give credit to them. So these are undocumented merchants. Just because they're using my platform, I can give them credit, I can give them access to buy things. And this is a major, major uplift. And then you can give them more and more online tools. But as you interconnect these chote jo businesses hain, and they're coming on these online rails, and they're starting to interact with each other, and they're starting to interact with end users, just look at the connections online that we're helping build. This is infrastructure work, the foundational work we're doing. And once that is built and everybody starts talking to them, the velocity of transactions and efficiencies goes on a hockey stick, grows, and it grows exponentially. And I think that's a challenge worth sacrificing for. It's exciting.
I think there are so many questions that I want to ask, and you gotta give me next 2 hours whenever you're in Karachi.
Inshallah, Zarur. I'd love
because
to.
this time I have to stop this here and you have to leave. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me,
dukan.pk and your new ventures a very good luck. And this is just part 1. We gotta record part 2 with Monis Rahman.
We will.
For sure.
And then you'll ask me, ab bataएं, more failures ko, then I'll have another group of, I'll say, here are my new failures. So I'll give you my latest failures when we talk next.
Of course. So before leaving, what is your one piece of advice for young entrepreneurs who are watching you?
This is going to sound so overplayed, but this is the time for Pakistan. मैं बैठा हुआ हूँ यहाँ से 2003 से मैं बैठा हूँ जब 1.6 मिलियन इंटरनेट यूजर्स थे इस मुल्क में जो ब्रॉडबैंड के ज़रिए DSL के थ्रू ऑफिस में आके इंटरनेट इस्तेमाल करते थे. वीकेंड्स को रोज़ी की ट्रैफिक ज़ीरो होती थी क्योंकि सब लोग ऑफिस में इस्तेमाल करते थे. एंड देन वी ट्राई टू गेट ऑटोमेशन फ्रॉम द पेमेंट्स. हमारे राइडर्स जाके 800 का वी वुड गो एंड गेट चेक्स फ्रॉम clients for a job posting, 800 रुपए जाके मोटरबाइक पे जाके 800 रुपए ले रहा है, right? It was difficult. अब सबके पास स्मार्टफोन्स हैं, सबके पास इंटरनेट एक्सेस है, सबके पास फोन्स हैं. We have a payment ecosystem. We have a large economy, right? 250 million people. We have a GDP that's $250 billion. And everybody wants to come online. Whoever you talk to, they want a website, they want an app. सब online आ रहे हैं. तो हमारी digital economy is growing phenomenally. Offline economy नहीं grow करी, but ये grow कर रही है. This is the time to build in Pakistan, for Pakistan. Build for your people. You're going to make money. You're going to create value. You're going to feel amazing. And this is what we need our youth to be focusing on right now. So ignore के सारे startups जो आए थे इतने पैसे raise करके egg on their face, they've exited. Ignore that. First wave में ऐसे ही होता है. This is the second wave. This is when things really happen. This is the time to build.
Wonderful. I think we'll definitely do the part 2 with Monis Rahman, and there's a lot. This is not just the one tip. There are so many tips, and I'm going to take a separate mentorship session with you for Hustle specifically.
It'll be a pleasure.
But thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Mom.